A top focus as the sides become Trump's foreign policy template. And on expected lines, America's President Donald Trump lashed out at Iran and justified pulling out of the nuclear deal in his United Nations speech. Addressing a packed house at the United Nations General Assembly, Trump started with America's economic growth. He touched upon Syria's war and then slammed Iran in his hard-hitting speech. He accused Iranian leaders of embezzling public funds to sponsor terror and urged world leaders to isolate the country.
Madam President, Iran's leaders sow chaos, death, and destruction. They do not respect their neighbors or borders or the sovereign rights of nations. Instead, Iran's leaders plunder the nation's resources to enrich themselves and to spread mayhem across the Middle East and far beyond. The Iranian people are rightly outraged that their leaders have embezzled billions of dollars from Iran's treasury, seized valuable portions of the economy, and looted the people's religious endowments, all to line their own pockets and send their proxies to wage war. Not good. Iran's neighbors have paid a heavy toll for the region's agenda of aggression and expansion. That is why so many countries in the Middle East strongly supported my decision to withdraw the United States from the horrible 2015 Iran nuclear deal and reimpose nuclear sanctions. The Iran deal was a windfall for Iran's leaders. In the years since the deal was reached, Iran's military budget grew nearly 40%.
Tensions between America and Iran peaked in May when Donald Trump pulled the U.S. out of the nuclear agreement. This despite strong objection from other signatories, the UK, Russia, Germany, China and France. And Trump went a step further and reimposed sanctions on Iran, threatened cooperates to pull out from the country. The American president also praised the North Korean leader, but said that sanctions will continue.
The missiles and rockets are no longer flying in every direction. Nuclear testing has stopped. Some military facilities are already being dismantled. Our hostages have been released, and as promised, the remains of our fallen heroes are being returned home to lay at rest in American soil.
Trump also had something to say about India too. He said that India at the UN General Assembly has pulled itself out of poverty, including millions of people. Listen in.
There is India, a free society over 1 billion people, successfully lifting countless millions out of poverty and into the middle class. There is Saudi Arabia, where King Salman and the Crown Prince are pursuing bold new reforms. There is Israel, proudly celebrating its 70th anniversary as a thriving democracy in the Holy Land.
So what does the average New Yorker think about the city hosting the United Nations General Assembly? Well, for one, they worry about traffic jams, but as Wion Sibyl reports, the annual UN General Assembly session also means big money for the city and its people. Take a look.
Well, it's that time of the year when a lot of security, a lot of people on the road and a lot of people in the metro are seen here in New York City. The United Nations General Assembly is on, and all what an average New Yorker wants is little peace and a lot of space.
City officials work tirelessly to ensure security while minimizing traffic disruptions that affect the daily commute of New Yorkers. But the annual United Nations session also brings with it a desirable traffic. Thousands of customers at restaurants, daycares, hotels even dry cleaners and barbershops in the city. The annual flood of visitors keeps New York's businesses buzzing and generates jobs.
Keep us busy for a week or so, especially the transportations departments area, you know, limousine, car services with that, hotels. The downsides though is the city has come to the gridlock, you know, this really can't go nowhere.
It brings a lot of delegates. You guys are here. You guys are spending money, so it's good for the local businesses. I have a business myself, but it's not in Manhattan. But yeah, of course it does, but it's not much of an effect. Anyways, people are going to come to New York.
Being a native New Yorker myself, I think that it's an honor really to be able to host the United Nations General Assembly. I think the fact that since we've established a UN and the fact that we allow all our world leaders to get together, debate, talk, I see no reason why it shouldn't happen in New York. I like the fact that it happens in New York, and quite frankly, I think it's a source of pride.
But it's the money that does the talking. According to the United Nations Economic Impact Report of 2016, the UN headquarters' economic contributions to New York is at a staggering $3.3 billion. Nearly 16,000 people were directly employed by the United Nations, and they took home household earnings of approximately 1.64 billion US dollars. The UN issued over 30,000 accreditations for visitors attending meetings and conferences. These visitors, on average, stayed in New York City for 14 days and received an average daily expense allowance of $258. This spend supported an additional estimated 1,210 jobs in the city. It's not only the diplomats and visitors who are providing business to bars and taxi drivers during the General Assembly this month, but also the thousands of New Yorkers employed in jobs from secretarial services to catering to construction at the UN complex every single day of the year. But beyond the economic impact, the UN complex is a cultural attraction and a draw for intellectual and political leaders from around the world.
70 years ago, New York beat out cities like London and San Francisco to be chosen as the headquarters of humanity's greatest post-war hope, the UN headquarters. Today, New Yorkers are reaping the benefit of that victory, even if it means sometimes occasional traffic. With video journalist Mukesh Sankla, Siddhant Sipal for Wion in New York.
And high political drama was witnessed at the United Nations General Assembly as US President Donald Trump and his Iranian counterpart Hassan Rouhani engaged in a war of words. While Trump urged world nations to isolate Tehran from global trade, Rouhani retorted by calling US sanctions economic terrorism. The US president did not mince any words against Iran, saying that Tehran was quote-unquote the world's leading sponsor of terrorism. Trump also accused the Iranian regime of funding proxy wars in the Middle East.
Iran's leaders sow chaos, death, and destruction. They do not respect their neighbors or borders or the sovereign rights of nations. Instead, Iran's leaders plunder the nation's resources to enrich themselves and to spread mayhem across the Middle East and far beyond.
Rouhani later hit back at Trump, saying that the US president's decision to impose more sanctions against Tehran was a form of quote-unquote economic terrorism. Rouhani also accused the Trump administration of attempting to topple his government.
تحریم‌های یک جانبه و نامشروع خود نوعی تروریسم اقتصادی و ناقض حق توسعه است. جنگ اقتصادی که آمریکا تحت عنوان تحریم‌های تازه آغاز کرده نه تنها مردم ایران را هدف قرار داده بلکه آثار زیانباری برای مردم کشورهای
The sharp retorts exchanged between Iran and the US has watered down hopes for resumption of talks over the Iran nuclear deal. Remember, the UN Assembly session took place months after Washington pulled out from the International Nuclear Accord.
Beautiful situation.